Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Chance, and it's time to talk about some board games. More specifically, a very small box board game called Fugitive. I've been having a lot of fun with this game and figured it deserved a quick review. Now, today's review won't have any chapters because I'm just going to give my thoughts on this game as I give the overview. So, Fugitive is a two-player hidden movement game. One player is the fugitive, and their goal is to escape the law after their epic heist. Feel free to make up your own epic heist before starting the game, because one will not be provided for you. The other player is the marshal, and they want to catch the fugitive by correctly identifying the fugitive's trail of hideouts. Now, this is a game by Tim Fowers, and I feel like he has a super unique collection of games. Then the art is by Ryan Goldsberry, and I'm just a big fan of his art style. Now, I will say that the cover art of the Marshal and Fugitive back-to-back, with that sidelong glance, does indicate some history here. I think the Marshal has been chasing this fugitive for a while now, and I think the fugitive enjoys being chased. They've got history. That's clear. Okay, admittedly, I may have added a bit more theme to this game than it actually provides. But look, that's just me saying I like this production. I like this theme, and it's well done. Now, the cards are that plasticky type that I'm not crazy about, but you know, it's good if you're out somewhere with a drink that may or may not get spilled. And then this box is a neat deck box with a nice little magnetic lid. Love it. So let's do a quick rundown on how the game works. The fugitive starts at hideout 0 and is simply trying to make it to card number, aka hideout number, 42. On the fugitive's turn, they simply place a new hideout following the rule that they can only move up to 3 spaces. So let's say that their last card is hideout number 10, that means their next card has to be an 11, 12, or 13. The marshal is simply trying to identify every hideout that the fugitive has been to. If the marshal correctly identifies all the hideout cards, they win. But if they don't do that before the fugitive reaches hideout number 42, then the fugitive wins. Now, that's the basic structure of the game. It sounds a bit too restrictive for the fugitive and easy for the marshal. But no worries, there are some wrinkles to add in. On the cards are also these footprint symbols. Those symbols can be used to let the fugitive sprint. So let's say that the fugitive is at that number 10 hideout card and they want to move to 17 to give the marshal a harder time than just guessing one of those 3 cards available with the base movement. So the fugitive can use those sprint symbols to boost their movement and they can play as many cards as they want. They simply add cards face down with the next hideout to indicate that they sprinted. They must make it clear how many cards they've played to the sprint, but they also don't have to use all of the sprint value. So they could overspend their cards to further confuse the marshal. Now, the game seems a bit too hard for the marshal, so let's improve the odds. First, there are 3 separate decks for the fugitive to draw cards from. One deck is 4 to 14, other is 15 to 28, the last deck is 29 to 41. Note that the fugitive starts with cards 1 through 3 and number 42. Now, this means that the marshal can watch what deck the fugitive player is drawing from to help deduce what range the fugitive is trying to move into. Second, the marshal draws a card on their turn to add to their hand, which just eliminates possible hideouts for the fugitive. Then third, the marshal doesn't have to guess a specific card position. They just declare a number and the fugitive has to reveal the hideout and all sprint cards that are under the hideout if it's one of the hideouts visited. Then lastly, it's clear that if the marshal falls behind and gets 1 or 2 guesses wrong, then the fugitive seems to be in the clear. But the marshal can actually make as many guesses as they want on their turn. While this is important for the marshal to be able to do, it also comes with a risk because if any of the guesses are wrong, the fugitive doesn't have to reveal any of the hideouts, even if the marshal got some of them right. So there's just one more thing to mention before I get back to my thoughts on this game, and that's the manhunt. As a last-ditch save for the marshal, if the fugitive manages to get to number 42 and the highest revealed hideout is still under number 29, then the marshal can trigger a manhunt. They get one last shot at guessing all the hideouts, one by one. If they guess one wrong, then the manhunt ends and the fugitive escapes. If they get them all right, then they've caught the sly son of a gun. Okay, let's start with that. I really love the manhunt. If you're the marshal and you start getting those guesses right one by one, you feel so smart. It's awesome. Then if you guess that final one right, it's basically a scene from Sherlock. I think the rule book should have stated that you only win the manhunt if you also say "Elementary, my dear Watson," after getting all the hideouts correct. Now back to the fundamental core of the game. This is by far one of my favorite hidden movement games. I've only played a few, The Hunt, Run, Mind Management, Captain Sonar, Not Alone, Kelp, Shark vs. Octopus, and I guess Star Wars Rebellion. This probably reminds me the most of Mind Management, and it even includes a shift system just like Mind Management. Just easier and smaller, and that means this game's easier to table. So I really do prefer this one over some other ones like Run, which is also a Fowers game. It's one where the game can fall a little flat just by players making a lucky guess. And that's just no fun when someone makes a lucky guess and the game is over. Now, I will admit, I feel like that can happen in Fugitive. It just hasn't happened for me yet. And if it does, this game is a lot smaller and a lot easier to set up, so it's easy to just kind of reset and do things again. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the shift system. And I have to admit that I haven't played with the shift cards yet. And why? Well, I think the game is great as it is, and I personally don't feel like I need the shift system to enjoy this game. Now, I have looked through all the shift cards, and they do provide some fun and interesting changes, but there is one card that stood out as problematic for me, and that's the Scrubbed Trail card. This basically lets the fugitive lie to the marshal. Now, it's a very narrow use case and applies during the multi-guess, but it still provides false information to the player doing the deduction, and I honestly hate it when a game does that, because then deduction becomes kind of pointless, and you're just playing a guessing game, because once a lie is introduced, then anything's possible. But that's just one card and definitely not going to ruin the game for me. Overall, I think Fugitive is great. It's another great small box 2-player game that I'm glad I have access to. No, my friend owns this one and I don't actually have a copy. But I do enjoy playing either role in this game, and I find them both tense and engaging, and if I had one complaint on this one, it's just that turn length is a bit asymmetric between the players. It's the person doing the deduction can definitely take a bit longer, which means the Fugitive player can have a lot of downtime. It's a pretty standard issue for hidden movement games though. Then as the Fugitive, I can never remember my hideout cards. I kind of wish there was an included sheet for the Fugitive just to mark the numbers I played as hideout, so I can glance at that instead of constantly checking the cards in the center of the table. So if you're looking for a hidden movement game that's a bit bigger and can play higher player counts as a 1 versus all, then Mind Management is still great. Then, if you have 8 players and want to have a blast, then I highly recommend Captain Sonar as a 4v4 real-time hidden movement battleship style game. That's something I'd love to play more of, but right now it's more of a once-a-year con game. So that's going to do it for my review of Fugitive. It's a great little hidden movement game for two that I have a blast playing. So thanks for watching, and thanks for spending your time with me. I always appreciate it. Talk to you next time.